Hi everyone, this is BritSimon. So I have a few minutes and there's a lot of people with a lot of questions out there at the moment. You may have questions about DV2020, 21, 23 and 24 now. Congratulations to those people that have been selected in DV2024. If any of those people would like to join me and ask questions, that would be awesome. Just quickly, right at the top, like I've done recently, DV2020 and DV2021. I know everyone's waiting for the outcome of the appeal. There is no news about that. Again, we just have to wait for the judges to do their work and make their decision. And then we see what happens from there. So there's nothing we can say about that. There's no way we can speed them up. They are entitled to take this time. So it's a bit of a nuisance. But anyway, so let's see. So I see I've got a few people watching and no questions yet. So whoever asks me a question right now is going to get an immediate answer. Oh, hello. How you doing, Mel Camus? How you doing? Okay, so got any questions? So okay, let's talk about something I know people are going to be asking about, DV2024. Okay, actually what I'm going to try and do is, as I'm starting to see questions, I want to answer them because I want to try and answer as many questions as I can in this particular session. I'm going to try and keep this to less than 1 hour. Those of you that have not seen any of my live Q&As before, I do this occasionally. I don't do it on a specific timeline. I just, when I've got some time to spare, I will jump online and answer questions. And because I've got viewers all around the world, if I do it at different times of day, it will help people out. So let me just jump in and answer some of these questions anyway. What's the problem in the situation where the medical exam is after the interview? There's no real problem with that. There are some embassies where the physicians, funnily enough, will try and stop that happening. But generally speaking, you can do the medical interview after the interview. It's not what most embassies want, but there are ways to do that. In some embassies they will allow it, and all it means is you have your interview, and then your case will be placed on administrative processing or 221G until your medical is available. So you can do that. It can be quite a useful thing sometimes. Case number is 2023 AS9140. Till now, it's still at MVC. You're worried because it's only a few months. Yep. So Susan, the thing is, where are you? What embassy are you at? Your chance of getting an interview is almost entirely now based on your embassy. You're probably fully processed and have been for a long time. Your case number is great. The question is your embassy working properly? That's really what's going to impact you. Okay. Case number 26K, but no to an L interview. Place Ankara. Please explain. Ankara have switched to a badly performing embassy. I don't know why they did that. And there's a lot of concern about that because, frankly, they're a big embassy. They need to do some work. But for whatever reason, they've started restricting the number of interviews that they're giving, and that's going to give people a problem. We're losing time. There's nothing we can do about it. It may seem unbelievable to you, but there is no way to force them. Now, some people ask me, can we do a Twitter campaign? Can we email the embassy? Can we do this? You can try all those things. I just don't think any of those things are going to actually make a difference to the embassy. And we don't know why the embassy have decided to do that. There may be some legitimate reason, but if there is a legitimate reason, they're not publishing it. So it's terrible. Addis Ababa, same situation. Yeah, another one. Paul says, "Can I share my email address?" No, I don't share my email address. I don't do any one-on-one consulting. I don't charge for anything I do. I don't charge fees. I'm not a lawyer, and so I don't provide my email address. So all of the questions I answer, I answer them either on YouTube like this, or on my blog at BritSimonSays.com. So you don't need my email address because there is almost no question that you need to ask me that is so private and personal, you can't phrase it properly at BritSimonSays.com. So do that. Will you have a chance to get it? Susan, as I mentioned, it depends on which embassy you're at. Some tips for new immigrants moving to the US, jobs and cities. Big question. I'm going to sort of pass on that question right now. There are other videos I've done which explain a little bit on how to get a job, which cities to go for. Don't go for the cheapest cities. Don't go for, you know, being an immigrant is like being reborn, right? You have a chance to choose any city in the country in the USA to live, right? And there are some cities in the country which might seem incredibly cheap to live in, and you think, wow, what a deal, that would be great. But that means that their local economy is normally pretty poor. There may not be many jobs in the area that, you know, so you choose the city based on the economy in the area. It should be a mid-range to higher end city where there's plenty of good opportunities, good education, if that matters to you. And although it might seem expensive to live in some of the better places, it's worth it. You also choose on things like your cultural needs and whether you've got community there, and you choose for things like weather. You know, are you going to like the weather there? I don't understand why some people end up in the coldest bloody places in the States. I mean, why? You know, why people choose that, I don't know. I know people love Chicago, but my God, it gets cold there. You know, I don't understand that. But anyway, so yeah, choose wisely. But it's too big a question, Jetin, to answer that right now. Okay. Accra still waiting for interview date. Any hope? Kingsford, I'm sorry to say, I believe Accra have determined that they're going to schedule no more than 25 or 30 interviews per month. I hope to see that change, because at that level, they are guaranteed to upset and ruin the chances of many people at Accra. But there's nothing we can do. We've tried suing embassies before, but it hasn't technically worked. We haven't had any technical success where a judge orders an embassy to behave in a certain way and the embassy does it. Not even the government centrally, the Department of State, believe that they have the ability to control an embassy and tell the embassy what to do. They say, the Department of State say, it's up to the embassy to set their own prioritization on which cases they take and which they don't. So there's nothing we can do, I'm afraid, Kingsford. And it's very, very unfair, very upsetting. It's horrible. Is there any problems in DV2024? Because everyone is saying that the computer didn't select enough, right? No, look, I get this comment every year. Right? Every year somebody says, "Oh, there's something wrong because I wasn't accepted, I wasn't selected," and I've spoken to 50 of my friends, and none of them were selected. Look, it's a lottery. There are probably over 25 million people who've entered this year's lottery. And there's probably something like 120 or 130,000 people that have been selected, right? So work out the odds. The odds are, something like 1 in 100 years you'll be selected in the lottery. Those people that are selected are very fortunate and lucky that they've been selected. And there are some people even that have been selected twice in a row or 2 or 3 times, right? So those things happen, right? That's normal. That's all normal. But there are plenty of people that have been reporting they are selected. So there's clearly not a problem with the system. It's working. It's just that not everyone will be selected, and that's normal in a lottery. That's how it works. I know it feels like when you enter the lottery, it just feels like, oh, I really want this, so I should get it, right? I mean, it's like that. I'm really qualified. I'm highly educated, or I'm a really nice person, or or my country's really poor and it would be really great for me to have this opportunity. But that's not what it's like. It's a random lottery. It doesn't care about your personal circumstances. It doesn't care about the education level you put on there. It's just a random lottery, and it's a lottery. Okay, so there you go. Watching from UAE. Welcome, Bowie. Hello, sir. My case number is AS16K, Embassy Islamabad. Probably another one. It's another embassy that's not working very well, which is upsetting because they've got a lot of the Afghan overflow there, and they need to do a better job. But again, there's nothing we can do to convince them, frankly, that they should do more. Cameroon aren't one of the worst actually, but there are much slower embassies. But same comment. So I'm getting a lot of these same comments. People are now realizing what I've been saying for months, that some embassies which are misbehaving are going to cause big problems. In fact, you could look at this the reverse way. The fact that we've seen Africa go basically current, Africa is current apart from I think 2 case numbers. The fact that we've seen Africa go current is because there are a number of embassies that are misbehaving. The government already knows that those embassies are misbehaving. They're not going to do anything to stop it. And instead what they've done is they've increased the case numbers so that everybody else, even with very high case numbers in Africa, can get a chance at the embassies that are working well. So it's unfair, but that's the way it is. And, they're doing what the government centrally, KCC centrally, are doing the best thing that they know how to do. They're getting as many people in for interviews as they can. And actually, they're issuing a lot of visas and they're scheduling a lot of interviews. But there are some embassies which are misbehaving and will ruin it for the people locally. Okay. Does Brussels, Belgium process DV visa? Yes, it does. It does quite a few. Is it okay that I didn't change my embassy location to that in Germany because I live here now, but I won the lottery from Cameroon? You live here now. So if you're in Germany now and you didn't unlock your form and get yourself an interview in Germany, you're a fool. Like, why are you waiting for Cameroon to get off their ass and do something for you if you're living in Germany, right? And please, I hope it's not because you believe these idiots that say don't unlock your form. I hope it's not that, because honestly, those people need to be spanked. Well, those people might enjoy being spanked, but the people that say that, honestly, they need to stop. They need to learn what they're talking about. You should unlock your form if you need to. And in your case, if you're living in Germany, you should have unlocked your DS-260 as early as possible to change your address to Germany, and then you would have been scheduled in Germany. How are you doing? My case number is AF35000. I'm from Ethiopia, and don't know anything. Oh, Susan, you're telling me you're in Djibouti. Think Djibouti. How are they doing? Let's see. DJ. Oh, they're backlogged. So Djibouti are backlogged. The highest case number that they've taken up to now is about 23,000. They've got a couple of outliers at slightly higher numbers, but they're backlogged. That basically means they're restricting the number of interviews that they're taking, and they should be taking more. They in April they accepted 15 cases for 15 interviews. That's not enough. They need to do more, and unfortunately, that's going to hinder your chances of getting an interview. So yeah, you have to. All you can do is wait and hope. Even at your 9,000 case number, you've got a better chance than some because your case number is lower. But still, it's going to be difficult for you, Susan. Is there any problem for DV2024 for searching case? No, there's no problem. Kingsford, we talked. Kingsford says, didn't you won 21, then you won again in 23, and you're praying that you get it this time? Oh man, that's so sad. To win a once in a lifetime chance twice and have it in 2 such messed up years is very frustrating, Kingsford. I hope things work out for you. Good luck with that. Winey says, case number 50K, Nairobi Embassy. Any chances for interview? Probably not. In all honesty, Nairobi are one of the worst embassies that is doing this thing, and because your case number is 50K, you wouldn't have been put into the AV status until quite late in the process. There's lots of people in front of you. Those people should be interviewed before you. And Nairobi is just not doing enough. So no, you're probably not going to get your visa, is the honest answer. Sorry, Winey. Do you think ABD, Abu Dhabi, right? We'll schedule up to AF60K. I don't know. You're asking me to predict, and I'm not going to do predictions. Okay. Akaki says, can you tell us briefly how the holes happen? How are they disqualifying candidates before selection, especially since the no new passport rule? You also promised a separate video on that. I didn't promise a separate video on that. I said there's a separate video on that. I've explained this at length before. And so if you go into my YouTube channel and you search for BritSimon and holes, you should find a video that explains the holes, what they are, where they come from. But briefly, I'll tell you, there are various methods that they can look at the entries. So firstly, let's say there are 10 million entries in a particular region, right? It's all done by region. Let's say there's 10 million entries. They number every entry, first thing they do, from 1 to 10 million in that region. That would be in Africa region. So it would be AF1 counting out to 10 million, right? And then they go through the entries starting at the beginning, and they start screening out some of the entries based on what they think is either fraudulent entries or just bad entries, people that make a mistake or something, people that don't put their photo on there correctly. Their photo is, let's say it's a photo of a donkey's butt instead of a human face. That would be automatically screened out by the system. There can be other ways they can screen things out. They might have noticed that one particular person has entered more than once. They will take those out. I think they're using some different technique this year, some different algorithm in order to exclude quite a lot of cases, and that has increased the number of holes. But there are various things that they can do. There's some security checks that go on. There's all sorts of checks. Now, they don't publish any of those checks. I know a little bit about it, but I'm not going to give finite detail about it. But anyway, the process means that they start to exclude, and they start with the first, let's say, a couple of 100,000 numbers, and they go through their process on those numbers. And then at some point, they decide how many winners they're actually going to select, and they count up from starting at 1, heading towards 10 million. But of course, they never get to 10 million, right? At some point, they cut it off. And in Africa this year, we know that the cutoff is about 122,000-ish. We won't know precisely until the 1st of next year. But but if case number 122,000 is there, you can guarantee there are going to be some percentage of holes. Probably half the cases or more will be holes prior to that number, right? So in fact, it's going to be much more than 50%, I believe. So there's going to be a lot of holes in between the case numbers, right? So don't worry too much about the precise details of how it gets done, but it does happen. And you can see that in previous years' data. And it's been that same way for years and years and years. I've been doing DV lottery advice and tips, etc. since 2013. It's always been there. So I believe it's always been there from the very beginning. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Ibrahim. Case number 2023 AS18K. DS submission is July. Islamabad. Islamabad. There you go. Islamabad. They're not scheduling enough people. Your DS submission was slightly late. You presumably knew in May, but you waited all of May, all of June, all of July, and then on the 31st of July, you submitted your DS-260. I don't know why you left it so late. And then the KCC says your case number is now current for interview processing. That means you're in the AV queue, but it depends on what Islamabad do, right? It's all down to them, and they're not doing enough, is the honest answer. So there you go. AR says, my wife went DV2023 and we have an interview on 20th of June, but she can't speak English and I can, so can I be her translator? Yes, there are sometimes translators at the embassy as well, but you can also translate. But I would say is if she speaks just a little bit of English, try and get her to participate in the interview. She shouldn't just sit there like, completely silent. Get her to participate, get her to interact with the CEO, get her to smile at the appropriate time, translate for her, but help her through the interview. Make sure that the CEO understands that the person he's going to give a visa to isn't going to be completely helpless in the USA, right? Always worth trying to speak a bit of English. What about Algeria? Will they schedule more cases? There are 1,200 already. There's this comment going around about Algeria. Algeria have done very well, and there's a misunderstanding that they've somehow only got like 500 or 600 visas left to give. That's not really true. The 1,200 that are scheduled won't all turn up for interview. In fact, many of those 1,200 are from interviews that have already been missed. Okay, so there are more visas available than you might think, but is unlikely that they'll just run out. What will happen is they'll slow down the scheduling a little bit. But we're only in May, so it's not going to happen this month or next month. They're not interviewing so many people like that. They actually, they're doing a tremendous job in terms of keeping the pace up. Oh, by the way, in Algeria, not all the cases that have been issued in Algeria are Algerians, right? So, that's the other thing. They do work for other countries too. So will they continue to schedule? Yeah, they're going to continue to schedule for a while. There's a possibility with the pace that they're doing that they could maybe hit the cap. But since Algeria are restricted in the case number, I don't think there's enough people current in Algeria to hit the cap, the country cap. There's a cap on every country that no country can have more than 7% of the global visas. So that's 3850 roughly. So they can't have more than that. But at the same time, since they've limited Algeria as a country, then they're unlikely to get close to that anyway. They've got about 5,500 selectees, but they haven't made all of those 5,500 selectees current yet, right? And some won't proceed, and some will get refused, and so on. Okay, so Mohammed says, I'm basically a pharmacist. Basically a pharmacist. You mean you basically work with drugs? Okay, I'm just going to leave that there. There is a question in the DS-260 asking whether I'm willing to work in the US as a medical field or no. I answered no. Will that be a serious problem? Why would you answer no? Is it your plan? Why would you answer no? You're a pharmacist, right? Are you planning to be a lumberjack when you come to America? Of course you're not. You're going to use your skills. Why would you answer no? You answered no because you read the question and you thought the question made it sound like you were doing something illegal, right? Don't answer questions based on what you think is in the mind of the person asking it or the form, etc. Answer questions honestly. If you're going to be a pharmacist in the USA, or you want to be, and you should want to be because it's a extremely well-paid, lucrative profession, why would you answer no? If you're going to be a pharmacist, say yes. Oh dear. Come on, Mohammed. Just be honest. First and foremost, be honest, right? If you want to be a lumberjack, that's great. Go you. If you're sick of being a pharmacist, but don't lie. She answered that question already. DV2021 I already talked about. My wife arrived in Texas a month today and she hasn't received her SSN yet. It always takes that long, Mr. Simons. No, it doesn't take a month. It should take 2 to 3 weeks. If you haven't received the SSN by 3 weeks, you go to the local Social Security office, SSA. There's a website, ssa.gov, and you apply for a Social Security number. It shouldn't have taken this long. Okay. Great. Bernie says your mum got approved today. That's awesome. Nairobi Embassy. Oh my gosh, you did well getting through that. One of the few people they've scheduled, so that's awesome. I was a 2022 winner. Due to the fact that Kabul collapsed, I changed my case to Islamabad. Until now, I got no answer. If the process is over, is there any chance of appeal? I heard someone yesterday talking about someone had filled their head full of nonsense, saying that DV2022 cases could continue for 4 years. It's complete bullshit. DV2022 is 100% over. There is no possibility, no chance of appeal, no chance of any miracle at all. The biggest reason for that is because they not only met the cap of 55,000 visas, they actually exceeded it. They broke the law and they gave away too many visas, right? And they did that through a mistake, but they stood by the mistake. They overissued. So by about 1,500 visas, right? Or 1,000 visas. And so there are no more freaking visas to be given out. So there's no point you keeping alive this dream that you're going to get some sort of miracle happen. It won't happen. I've got to be blunt with you because, frankly, you're not children, you're adults. You need to hear the truth. And I know some people out there, probably on some other YouTube channels, who don't know what the hell they're talking about, are probably telling you, oh, yeah, this could happen, that could happen. It's nonsense. DV 2022 is 100% over. The years finish on 30th of September each year, right? And that's it. That's the end of it. The only way that we're still talking about DV 2020 and 2021 is because we won some lawsuits that have kept those things going. And they're in a protected status at the moment. But DV 2022, there is no way on earth that's ever coming back, okay? That's the honest truth. Brutal, I know, but honest. Greetings from Germany, says TSS. Oh, you're very welcome. You got your visa. Fantastic. Well, that's good. Good luck to you. Good luck on your journey. DV 2022 here. I hope you got your visa. Otherwise, I'd have to give you the same lecture that it's over. What about DV 2020? Yeah, I addressed it at the beginning. We're still waiting for the appeal. Hi from Nepal. Do they program lottery software to pick up the passport number or email ID who had one in the past wouldn't get selected again in the new lottery? No, they don't do that. That's another silly rumor. There are people who, in fact, somebody just earlier said, I won in 21 and I won again in 23. So there you go. That's your answer. People get selected in multiple years. So, of course, they're not doing what you're suggesting they're doing. Okay? It's just random. Honestly, it's not based on your eye color. It's not based on the time of day you enter. It's not based on which stupid YouTube channel you're listening to that promises I know how to make people win. There is one channel with this crazy lady that thinks that she's got some special power to get people to win. She's delusional and very misinformed. But no, it's not based on any of those things. It's a random lottery, and it doesn't look at whether you've won before or not. Okay, it's just random. Okay. My boss, hello boss, my case number is AF35 something. You've put too many asterisks there, so I'm going to assume it's 35,000, not 350,000. Your case has been processed, so I'm going to assume it's 2023, but it really helps if you put the year now. I'm dealing with several years. And your current for interview, when can I expect the 2NL Addis Ababa? I have no idea. I'm sort of regretting reading the question, really. I have no idea. I can't predict the future. So sorry. How many people passed DV in Liberia? What, to date? Can you be a bit more specific? So Monrovia, let's look up Monrovia. So far issued, there are 120 people, all from Africa region, who've been issued in DV 2023. Is that what you're asking? I don't know. You were not specific, so there you go. Anurag says, thank you for 100% reliable information. DV 2022, now in the US. That's what I like to hear. K. Reiners are full. Interesting. My case number 2023 EU is that status refused 221G. I had my interview, but my medical was 1 week after. This is 2 weeks ago. Is it normal or should I be concerned? Okay, so you had your interview in April, I'm guessing, right? And then medical was 1 week after. I had my interview 2 weeks ago. Yeah, so you had your interview in April. The problem that you're running into is that your medical was provided probably at the beginning of this month or very late last month, and your case wasn't resolved before the end of the month where you were interviewed, what happens is the embassy has to send back your visa number back to KCC to be reallocated, reused elsewhere. Then when you provided your medical, somebody at some point, and you can't say how quickly this will happen, but somebody at the embassy will pick up your case again and say, oh, great, we've got his medical now. That's all we were waiting for. Or maybe they're waiting for something else. I don't know. And now we need to issue this case. But because we sent back the visa that was previously allocated to this case, we have to go and ask KCC again. And KCC have to reallocate a visa to that. And that takes time. It can add a couple of weeks. So if your case is on 221G and that passes into a different month from the month you moved that you were interviewed in, then that adds additional delay, and you'll just have to accept that, and you just have to wait and be patient. Okay, good luck with that. What's the 2024 winning statistics per country? We don't have that data yet. We will have the number of selectees per country either in July or in August. It's sometimes published in the August visa bulletin, which is published, would you believe, in July, because the government like to make things complicated. Or it could be published in the September visa bulletin, which will be published in August. So roughly mid-July or perhaps mid-August, we will have a per country number of selectees, and therefore we'll know for the region and for the global as well. Okay. Susan, you asked some questions earlier. Is there a way to make it happen soon? There's no way to force it to happen, no. You can't force Djibouti embassy to do anything. You just have to wait and hope that you will be seen. Good luck. I mean, there is time, right? So you've got time, and they're not completely stopped. So you've got a chance, Susan. Fingers crossed for you. Winning number for DV2024 is EU 44900. Is there a sense to fill in the DS-260? Okay, please watch the video that I posted yesterday. I think it was yesterday or the day before. People are worried about DV2024 numbers because they're hearing very high case numbers, and they're comparing those case numbers to previous years, right? But it doesn't, I've been saying this for 10 years. It doesn't make sense to compare one year with another. So case number EU 25,000 from DV2024 is not going to have the same number of cases in front of it under 25,000 as a case in DV2023. They're not equivalent. They're just positional, right? So your case is 44,900 in Europe, and Europe goes up to at least 65,000 that I know of at the moment, right? So you're probably 2/3 of the way through the selectees. However, we don't know how many selectees there are, so it's completely ridiculous and impossible and stupid to try and say whether you do have a chance or you don't have a chance. And again, I know there are some YouTubers out there that have no freaking idea how this thing works, but they're just talking for clicks, and they're telling you probably different things. But the reality is nobody, apart from the government, who are not publishing the information, knows how many selectees there are in DV2024 or not. So we don't know whether there's 10,000 people in front of you or 30,000 people in front of you. We don't know. You don't know, I don't know, nobody knows, right? So you can't guess. You just have to be patient and wait until we've got more information, which will be July or August, as I mentioned just a little while ago. Okay? Couple of questions here about 2020. Can I explain? We're still waiting for the appeal court to make their decision. There's no way we can rush them. That's just all we're waiting for. There's no updates on that. FY Kabul got closed in August 21 due to the political changes. Yeah, I know. And you're reassigned to Islamabad. Yeah, I know. Embassy is performing for. Yeah, I know. I know all of that. Thanks for letting me know. I'm horrified that anybody is going through that. With all the problems that have happened in that region, and for Afghans in particular, it is unconscionable that they would not help those people. But nevertheless, that's what they're doing. They've, as you say, they've only scheduled a couple of hundred cases. I don't understand why. but there's nothing I can do to fix it, I'm afraid. We've tried. We have tried with various embassies, but doesn't work. DV2023, thanks. Already in the United States. Well done, Eleanor. That's awesome. Congratulations and welcome to the USA. Fact Inside says 2023 AS7000. As of February 23, my case was on interview processing. Haven't received 2NL. When can I expect to receive it? Can I make any predictions? I think you actually asked me exactly the same question, either on my YouTube channel or on my blog, because I've answered this question. Basically, it's down to your embassy, and you don't mention which embassy it is. So I'm not going to make a prediction. And you said in that question, can I make any predictions, meaning yourself? You can make any prediction you like, but I'm not able to make predictions. Could you please tell us about the case going on for DV2020? Just addressed it. We're still waiting for the appeal. Same thing for 21. Embassy Inside that says Colombo. Yeah, I did answer your question this morning on BritSimonSays.com. Go have a look at my answer there. Okay. What is going on with the DV2020 case? Yep, same question. Lots of people asking that same question. I've answered. Is it possible to transfer my case to another embassy if it's current? I've spoken to another embassy and they agreed to accommodate my case. Will KCC approve it? Here's the thing, Fabrice. There's kind of a trick to this, and there's kind of not. There's not a guaranteed way to make this work. But what I'm about to tell you is the secret on how it has worked for some people. First thing to do is people who are trying to switch embassies sometimes make the mistake of asking KCC to switch the embassies, and by doing that, they alert KCC that they're just trying to switch embassies, right? And that, unfortunately, upsets KCC for some reason, and they don't want to help. However, if you change your address because you've moved to some other embassy, some other country, and you speak to the embassy there, or you've got very strong ties to that country, and you speak to that embassy, and if that embassy are prepared to contact KCC on your behalf and say, send us the case, KCC will send the case in that scenario, but only if the embassy asks on your behalf. You can't forward the email from the embassy to KCC and expect KCC to do anything with that. They might, but they're less likely to. They're most likely to do something about it if the embassy asks on your behalf. Now, how do you get the embassy to ask on your behalf? It's not an easy thing to do. You have to try and persuade, try and beg, try and do whatever you can to ask them to intervene on your behalf, to ask them to have the case moved to that embassy. Okay, good luck with that. I hope you make it work, Fabrice. Case number is 2023 AF28K, says Arthur. Submitted on 24th of August 22. Is there a chance I can get my interview for Juliet, July, if Africa is current? I don't know. I have no idea. I can't predict. Is there a chance? There's a chance, but I don't know. And by the way, I don't know. Mostly, Arthur, I can't answer your question because you don't even mention your embassy. Please, the total number of visas in the whole world for DV2023 is 54,850. Correct. Is there still any chance for us that haven't received the 2NL? Obviously, there's a chance. Why would you ask a question like that? The total number of visas issued to date is just over 27,000. So we're only halfway through the issued visas. The total number of scheduled people, that's people that have been scheduled, have had their visas issued, or waiting for an interview, or perhaps they've been refused or whatever. The total is 53,600, roughly. Now, that number, 53,600, needs to get to about 70,000 in order for us to hit the cap of 55,000, right? So there are probably going to be about 14,000 more people. 14? No, that's not right. 53, 16,000. About 16, maybe 17,000 more cases, or people rather. About 10,000 cases will be scheduled. And there is more than enough time to do that. KCC have done a fantastic job, frankly. Again, there are some people out there, particularly one particular Twitter account I could mention, that consistently says they're not doing enough. They're not doing enough. They are doing enough. They're doing more than enough. They have, done a fantastic job, and they only now have to schedule 10,000 more interviews for about 17,000 more people in order to issue all of the visas necessary. And they have plenty of time to do that, right? They're scheduling for they'll be scheduling for June right now, and they'll be scheduling for July shortly. So July, August, September. It's only 3,000 cases a month they would need to schedule, right? There's more than enough time. They've been doing much more than that, right? So there's more than enough time. Okay. Okay. Chef experience can apply DV lottery. Not really. No. Being a chef by itself is not a profession that meets the requirements for DV lottery. You need to be in a profession, and go and check that on ONET, because actually maybe thinking about it, maybe they would consider that as a profession. But okay, so there's a blog article I've written that explains how to find out whether that can or can't be considered approved. I'm thinking about chef, maybe that, because it needs a lot of training to be a chef. Oh man, I'll just check. All right, so we go to ONET Online. ONET Online. And we'll get chef. Just have a check. Let me just I'm going to show you what I'm doing here. Let me present this. Share screen. Turn screen. This one. Share. Right. Okay. So this is ONET Online. This is how you can check. So I'm going to search in ONET Online, which is onetonline.org, for a chef and head cook, right? You go into that and you scroll down a little bit and you see what job zone it's in and what SVP range. It says job zone 3, medium preparation needed. That's not enough to be to meet the requirements. And the SVP is 6 to 7. It needs to be 7 and above. So no, a straight chef or head cook would not be enough. But if you do something like this, if you say executive chef, let's see if we can find something. Cooks, fast food, obviously not. Cooks, restaurant, cooks, private household, and food service manager. So if you change the description, that's no good either. That's job zone 2. I would say no. So chef and a head cook. I was looking for something. Sometimes you can find a similar description, and you can make your job align with that description and therefore get a better chance. But as a chef, no, a chef won't be qualified. Sorry about that. Watching from Trinidad, check status wasn't selected. Oh, well, next year perhaps. Okay, a couple more questions here. A few more questions. Hope all is well. If I was to change an embassy from a country that is not scheduling in Africa, what embassy would you say is the best one with little or no IVQ? It's an AVQ, A for Apple, AVQ. I think Freetown would be good. Algeria would be good. If you got total ability to go anywhere, probably Freetown is probably your best. July cases prediction, sir. I have no prediction. How about the embassy in Croatia? Is it worth reaching out to them after filling out DS-260, case number 36,000? You can try. Let's see. Let's have a look at Croatia. If you've got connections with Croatia, let's see. Oof. It's a very, very quiet embassy. They've issued 5 people so far this year, right? That's not necessarily to say that they are not working, but it's a very, very quiet embassy. So that can be good sometimes, it can be bad sometimes. So you could certainly contact them if you've got connections with Croatia. Contact them and ask them if they can take your case, and if they can they ask KCC to assign the case to them? That would work. JJ says, if you're residing in another country like Canada, would it be processed at Canadian Embassy? No, not at the Canadian Embassy. You mean the Canadian US Embassy or the Canadian Embassy? Maybe you mean the Canadian US Embassy. Yeah. Okay, so let's figure this out. Right. First of all, other countries have got nothing to do with the US green card, right? So if you mean the US Embassy in Canada, yes, you can process your application by having an interview in the US Embassy in Canada. Is that what you mean? And it could only be Montreal. Montreal is the only embassy location in Canada that does DV interviews. Okay, so there are some other there's some other consulates in Canada, but none of them will do DV interviews. Only Montreal. So yeah, where you process where you live typically, and that's a challenge for some people because they're living in countries where the embassy is closed or the embassy is not working. But Canada is working, or Montreal is working. And so if you live in Canada right now, that's where you would be interviewed. Okay. Can you elaborate on the medical exams part of the process, says Marco? Possible reasons for rejections due to something on the medicals. I asked for the X to say no to bring the chest x-rays. I asked for the X. They say no to bring the chest x-ray unless plus. I don't know what that means. Okay, the medical interview. I've had people asking questions like, can I be refused because I got a tattoo? Can I be refused because I wear glasses? Can I be refused because one leg is shorter than the other? None of that is interesting. That one leg shorter than the other, that's a real thing. That's a real question I've got a few years ago. Still cracks me up to this day. That's not what they're interested in finding out in the medical. What they're looking for in the medical is basically a couple of things. Either they're looking for one of four diseases, which are diseases of public health significance, things like tuberculosis. And there's only 4 diseases they care about, and I've published those on my website. But you can also just Google diseases of public health significance, right? So they're either looking for that, or they're looking for some medical condition that makes your life difficult to the point where you might become a public charge. Okay. Now, if you're a habitual drug user, for example, that can mean that you could become a public charge. If you've got some disability, that might mean that you could become a public charge in the States. It shouldn't, but it might, right? So depending on the medical is only really looking for those 2 factors. Either you've got one of those diseases, or and they care about the diseases, by the way, because they don't want you as a new immigrant spreading that disease around the States, right? That's why they restrict that. Or they're worried about your ability to support yourself, which is what this public charge thing is about. So that's what they look for in the medical. They're not really interested in much else. They're also interested in ensuring that you've got all the correct vaccinations, which at the moment does include COVID. So you need to have all the correct vaccinations. If you're a vaccine denier and you don't want to have some vaccine, particularly COVID, then tough luck. You need to go and live in some other country that doesn't, that doesn't mind you being a dickhead. But otherwise you need to get all your vaccinations. They need to all be up to date, right? So that's what they're looking to prove in the medical. And the chest X-ray you mentioned, by the way, the physician will want to do that, because if you just present them with a chest X-ray, it may not be yours, right? So they will want to do that. The other question I'm sometimes asked is for females that are pregnant, and they don't want to have an X-ray. Well, in that scenario, there is a shield that they place around the abdomen, lower abdomen abdomen of the applicant, so that they can X-ray the lungs. The lungs is what they're looking to X-ray. Okay, so even a pregnant person will go through the X-ray, and you can say, I don't want to have an X-ray, or I don't want to do this, or I don't want to have a vaccination, and they're entitled to say, okay, then you're not going to get the visa, right? It is as simple as that, right? So yeah, just that's it. Thank you for the Germany answer. You answered my question. Okay, great. Says JJ. I'm DV winner 2021 from Nepal. Is there still hope for DV selectees for DV21 appointed? Yep, we're still waiting for the appeal. Please, who told that guy that Cameroon embassy is slow? Please, have you checked it? The official website to see how Cameroon embassy is performing. Yeah, they're not doing badly. They're not doing badly as some. Some other embassies are doing, pretty awful. Yona says, do I need a police clearance if I live in Kenya for 5 months and move to Uganda for 1 month and then return to Kenya and stay there for 5 more months? Yes, you do. Well, actually, you say 5 more months. So the rules about when you need a police certificate is basically it's normally over 1 year if you've been there 1 year, unless it's your present country of residence or your country of birth. Read the instructions about when you need to get the police certificate, but don't play cute. This is an example of playing cute, saying to the CO, "Oh, I don't need the police certificate because I only lived there for a few months. Then I moved away for a few weeks and then I came back." No, get the bloody police certificate. Why would you try and risk your interview for the sake of trying to play cute? That's what I call playing cute, being clever, trying to be a smarty pants. Don't do that. All right. I did some homework and found out appeal courts usually take at least 6 months up to 2 years to make a decision on immigration. Is that true, Simon? Is it true that you did the homework? I don't know if you did the homework. Is it true that they take that time? They can do it. It can be any time. The lawyers that are involved in the cases expected or hoped, depending on who you spoke to, an answer within about 3 to 4 months. One had a clear expectation it would be 3 months, and the other lawyers hoped. None of them thought it was going to take 2 years, but all of them say there's no way we can force this. So will it take 6 months or 2 years? Well, it's already taken 6 months. So we'll have to wait and see when it comes out. But there's no finite time that it would take. Okay. We have a case number EU 34,000 in Lithuania, Vilnius. Is it possible to expect 2NL here? It looks like our embassy is taking around 55 cases every year, and there is no delay. There is any delay. Right. Lithuania only does about 55 cases because they get a very low number of selectees, and they get a low number of selectees, by the way, because they get a low number of entries. The number of entries relates directly to the number of selectees you get, and the performance of the embassy should be in line with those things, right? So whatever your case number in Lithuania, it doesn't really matter. You're probably current, and you've got a good chance if you're a DV 2023 case. So I wouldn't worry about it. Don't overthink and look at, oh, they only did 55. You're confusing yourself with. It's not because they didn't do 55 and there are 5,000 Lithuanians waiting. That's not what happened. They did 55 because that's all the work that was there for them to do, right? That's my point. Lots of questions I'm just skipping over, saying either about 2021 or 2020, or I'm at this embassy, here's my case number, can you predict whether I will get the interview or not? That's essentially what these questions are answering. I can't answer those questions, so I'm not sure why you keep asking them. Is there any way to check how many people won the DV lottery for the 2024 session? There will be, Shane, but not yet. It's going to be published in July or August. We'll know exactly how many people have been selected. And when they publish those numbers, by the way, it includes derivatives. right? Spouse and children. And the 55,000 number of visas also includes derivatives. So if there's a family of 4, it reduces the 55,000 by 4, not by 1. It's one case number with 4 people on it, and it will reduce the 55,000 by 4, right? But we'll know that only when we don't know it now. Nobody knows it now. We'll only know it in July or August, okay? Do I think AF39K will be interviewed at AD? I don't know. 44K from Cameroon, but our embassy doesn't schedule an interview for the June month. What does that mean? It might mean that they're about to schedule for June. The 2NLs are not actually finished yet for the month of June. They could actually send some more right now over the next day or two. We'll see. Will Islamabad schedule? I don't know. AS30XX3000 applied within US to the US CIS through a lawyer. Oh God, why do you use a lawyer? Got my biometric scan last month, April 4th at the local US CIS waiver and the US L1 case closure chances. Well, you were you hired a lawyer. You should ask your lawyer. Actually, you shouldn't have hired a lawyer. You should have gone to get help from someone's mum, who is a brilliant person who answers AOS questions on a forum on the internet. But you hired a lawyer. It should be okay, but your lawyer should be chasing that for you, right? So, what can I say? Good job. I'm from Algeria region. AF case number is 55K. My DS-260 submitted on 31st of the 5th. Do you think I can get a chance for interviews? Don't know. My name is Bibas Belbassi. Oh, okay. Thank you. Where else? Okay. Oh, thank you for that kind sentiment, Jojo. That's kind of you. DV2023 receive visas. Good. Because of the war in Ukraine, the man could not leave the country by military law, so visas expired at December. Is there any chance to extend visa validity? Oh, shit. What a horrible situation. And screw Putin, by the way. Screw Putin big time. I hope that miserable piece of shit dies pretty soon. So is there anything you can do? Strictly speaking, no. But you might be able to do something. You were probably issued at Frankfurt, I would imagine. Whichever embassy issued your visas, contact them and see if you can get an extension. But can your husband actually leave Ukraine even now? So, I don't know. You're going to have to try and figure that out. You can ask. There have been extensions which are outside the parameters. They might immediately say yes. But, given your story, given the situation, hopefully they would say yes. I hope that in your situation, you were smart enough for the woman, to go to America and start that. If you at least did that, if you didn't let both the visas expire, then there's a chance that you can sponsor your husband later, even if they don't extend his visa now. But if you let both of the visas expire, then your chances are reduced. I hope you didn't do that. But anyway, good luck with that. Very tough situation. And again, just may Putin rot in hell. Do you think Morocco will reach 47K before the end of the year? No idea. How many people won Morocco? I want the percentage. I don't know. I'm case number Africa 43080 from South Africa. Do you think I'll get an interview? I don't know. I don't even know what year you're in, Cheryl. But try and be a little bit more clear in your questions, please. Lion Gaming. I'm DV lottery winner. My case number is 23K. So you say your case number 23K. I would assume, I can't assume. I don't know what region you're in. I don't know what year you're in. You have to be more clear. What do I think about Addis? They're not doing great at the moment. Okay. I'm just scanning through a bunch of repetitive questions here. Okay. Thanks, Brent. I finally got my 2NL, 46K Liberia. I did place my number and my mum number at the back of the passport that stated, write 2 numbers in case of accident. Oh, okay. I understand. Will it cause a problem? No. Why would that cause a problem? You're talking about your phone number? You wrote your phone number in your passport, I think you're talking about. That's okay. That's fine. Shouldn't be a problem. Are the embassies checked or rated on performance? No, not really. Maybe internally, but they are little fiefdoms. They've got quite a lot of power to operate the way they want. An ambassador and the embassy are quite powerful within that country. So, yeah. Hello, Brit. This year there are less people selected. Why? Now, why are you making a statement like that you have no reason to make that statement? You have no data to back that up. What you might mean is that you were aware of 100 people who applied and none of them were selected. But that doesn't mean that there's less people who are selected. It just might mean that you're pretty bad at entering people's data. I don't think you know anything, any special information. You don't know there are less people selected. And in fact, the case numbers we're hearing might suggest that there are more people selected. So I don't know what you're talking about. How do we know how many holes there are in DV2024? I just joined in. Yeah, we did discuss this earlier. Basically, we're going to find out the number of selectees in about July or August. That will tell us how many selectees there are, and we've got a fairly good idea, based on people that reported their case numbers, what the highest case number is in each region. It's not precise yet, so we can only make sort of general, sort of guesstimates, but they'll be pretty accurate. So once we know how many selectees there are, we'll apply a percentage for the derivative rate to figure out how many cases there are. So let's say there are 3,000 cases and there's 2 people on every case. That should be 6,000 people, right? So we'll see the 6,000 people being reported. We'll apply the 2 to get it to the number of cases, and then we'll say, okay, there are 3,000 cases in this region, and the region goes up to 27,000. That means that there are 24,000 holes, right? That's how we'll work it out. And we'll know that data in July or August, as I mentioned earlier on this call. Okay, 2 more questions. Let's just see if I can find 2 more decent questions. Is it safe that I mistakenly entered no on the 2 years training or experience on education or employment questions? Yes, it doesn't matter. That's not a knockout question or anything else like that. Now, if it was truly mistaken, if you do go in to correct your form for any other reason, then correct that at the same time. But it's not a particularly bad one. Okay, last question from Adam here. I'm a DV2024 winner, and me and the fiance are F1 visa here in the US. So now can we marry and apply for adjustment in status, or should I stay single and apply for only myself? Get married. Get married. And do that now. Straight away, go to Hawaii, get married, and get ready. Now, if you're applying for adjustment of status, you don't have to fill in the DS-260 yet. And that's a good thing, because filling in the DS-260 is a declaration of immigrant intent, right? You don't want to do that yet. You also would be better off to get married first before you file any paperwork, right? So the order of events is you get married fairly quickly, depending on your case number. If your case number is very, very low, then you could file for adjustment of status as early as, let's say, October or November of this year. But you have to wait until your number is published as being current in the visa bulletin. That's the only time you can file your case, right? And that's when you file your I-485, which is the process you do for adjustment of status. Now, go to a forum. Let me put this. I'm going to put this in the chat. I'm going to put a link in the chat, which is going to be like gold dust to you. With this link, you don't need a lawyer to adjust status, because this I'm about to put in the chat here is the link of a link to a person's forum thread, and the person is called Someone's Mum. That's her username, and she is an absolute expert in DV AOS, right? DV related adjustment of status, like you're going to do. And she knows everything there is to know about that process. And she's been helping people for years. She helped me back in DV 2014. And she's been doing it ever since. And I know her personally. She's awesome. So on the very first post in that thread that I've just given you, there's a link to a spreadsheet that has all the information about how you apply for adjustment of status. And once you've studied that spreadsheet, then you can ask someone's mum questions. But please don't be so rude as to ask her questions without reading the spreadsheet first. Please study the process. Don't just go in there and blindly ask her a question. But in terms of your question about whether you should get married or not, yeah, go and get married and enjoy. Okay, that'll be my last question. I've got some meetings to get to, so I hope that was helpful. I'll be doing live sessions like this every few days for some weeks, because we'll get the DV2024 people up and running and get them going. And we'll see the DV2023 cases through to the end. And hopefully we'll have some good news about 2020 and 2021 over the next few weeks. Fingers crossed. I'd like to believe so. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me today. Please subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're getting good, accurate information. And this is the place that you get that, rather than some other places. All right. Okay, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.